Oh, like kids.
Alright, we'll get started while the last couple people are signing in. So if you haven't signed in, you can do that now or sometime before. A couple quick things before we get started with the main event today, which is Ms. Donna Patterson, the star of the show, with the much awaited and highly anticipated test administration code training. I know you've all been excited. No, I'm just kidding. But it'll be great. Tell me something good that's happened in the last week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks. It's becoming harder, isn't it? 24 days left in school is hard.
I do a praise report for Miss Carol.
That's a great one.
The last time we were together, it was a
Things
whole
didn't
week
look
after
good.
right now. Went to the doctor, what? What day is Tuesday?
Tuesday, yes.
Goes back to work in less than 2 weeks.
Pretty awesome. Go from a ventilator to back at work. Pretty, in a few weeks, pretty awesome. All right, what else? Anything awesome you've seen out of a kid or a colleague or?
We found out this week that Anthony was adopted, and it may be happening today.
So he is getting adopted?
For sure.
So he went from, last week we're not going to see him again, and now he's being adopted. So somebody in the county or no? So he thinks he needs to finish the year here.
I don't think the law works, so she was adopted.
She's dropping off, okay. That's exciting. It was cool to see our kids rally around him.
Yeah, and he is milky.
That's all right.
He hates the attention though. Yeah. Anything else? Okay, just a couple of quick informational things. We've got a lot of kids that are making we have a number of kids that are making a lot of progress on academic recovery, and as you are probably not surprised, some that aren't doing much. But a lot of them are making progress. We had another one graduate today, and as they finish that, we'll try to update that list. Some of them may be finishing 9 weeks, and we'll update that 9 weeks grades, and then some of them may need to move on to the second or possibly even the third 9 weeks. So we're working on some of those things as well. Ms. Tammy usually waits until, like if they're doing 3 classes 9 weeks, she'll wait, and she can tell me if I say this wrong, but she'll wait until they finish everything that 9 weeks. And Ms. Savannah verifies that. And then she'll change all those grades in the campus. So will they see that, Ms. Tammy? Will the teachers see that? I guess if they look at theirs in the campus, they'll see
Now,
it.
it will reflect on their final grade, because once I change it, the old grade's gone,
Okay.
and it's bumped up to 60, and then it will show in their final grade.
Okay. And I know Ms. Tammy's been meeting with a lot of kids who are kind of borderline. So for a lot of them, the ball's in their court. You know, what they do from here and what their options are, I guess, depends on what they do. You have questions?
Our attendance has seemed really good the last few days.
You know, it's hard to.
And maybe it's just 8th grade, or my kids, I don't know, but I've had like 100% attendance a lot in different classes this week for the first time since we've been back, yeah.
Good. It's hard to, I mean, just with things being so different, we don't look at that as much, so I forget to pay attention. That's great. All right, anything else? Okay, a couple things. I'll mention this real quick. We're going to try to we'll start announcing this to our kids on Monday. We're going to try to do a talent show again this year. We can't bring everybody into the gym and, have 300 people in one spot and do a talent show that way. But this could even be better because we're going to try to do a virtual talent show. So if the kids want to record something here, we can help them record it. If they want to even record something at home and bring it in, they can, probably hard to email, but if they have an iPhone, Ms. Durham said they can airdrop it to her because she's got a MacBook, or Ms. Durham and Mr. Willoughby are going to kind of head this up. So we'll try to find a way, if they make a recording, to get that recording and put it in the Google Drive. And then the top question mark number of finalists will be a part of the final talent show. We can show that one day near the end of the year during Flex or during homeroom or something like that. So I think that'll be a neat way to do it. It'll also give us an opportunity to edit as need be. And the reason we don't know how many finalists we are going to have is because if you're good, you're a finalist, and if you're not, you're not. So that number depends on how good the acts are. But if any
And
of
somebody
you,
besides Mr. Willoughby and I need to be.
the judging panel,
Yeah,
yeah.
I don't want mamas calling me.
No, we'll have a secret, undisclosed judging panel. Yeah, that's absolutely we can. That's no problem. And as long as if they're decent, we'll try to include them. I think they will. So, and some kids may feel better about it because they can record it as many times as they want before they submit it. So I think that's a good thing. Along those same lines, if any of you would like to contribute an entry to the talent show, the kids would love that. Mr. Ferguson, I don't know where you're at. Oh, you're hiding back here. He mentioned yesterday, can I use as an example? I already started, right? So he said, I just know some yo-yo tricks. They would love that. Like a recording of Mr. Ferguson with yo-yo tricks would be awesome. And if any of you have like legitimate musical talent, we're going to try to put together like some type of, like I know we have a lot of singers in here. I need somebody who can at least either play a bass or pretend to, because we'll try to do something legit for the talent show for the staff act. But then I knew nothing until yesterday or the day before about, what is this called that we're going to do in between? Carpool karaoke. But apparently this is the thing I'm supposed to know about. But now our thought is, what if like in between the student acts we had 30-second clips of different staff members doing like carpool karaoke, which is really funny. I have looked it up some on YouTube. So think about what you might want to do for carpool karaoke. Ms. Jacqueline has already volunteered, Mr. Jacqueline, but and I don't think he's really able to protest too much. So that's going to be good. So think about what things you might want to do. And then we thought, how cool would it be if at the end we had the whole staff like on a bus doing carpool karaoke? I can't remember what we thought. What were we going to do for the end? Something from
Summer.
Something
High
from
school.
The high school music.
Yeah, something for the, yeah. We'll think about that. But I mean, nobody has to participate if you don't want to. But it'd be fun if you would like it.
And if you can't tell, Mr. West is really
I
excited.
am. I got all excited about this yesterday. I said, I'm not going to do anything else the rest of the year. Miss Kayla, Miss Tammy are in charge. I'm just going to work on the talent show. So that's all that matters. Gee, that's kidding. Don't say that in front of us.
I said you were excited. You took it way too far.
As is my custom. Yes. Hopefully, I appreciate everybody who contributed last week to our testing schedule discussion. So hopefully you've seen that on the living calendar. Just think of, kind of look ahead at that. We're going to do a couple of days of map testing next week. We are going to try to do those 2 days in the gym so that everybody can kind of practice that. If you grade levels have requests as far as seating charts, you can let me know about that. If not, we'll probably just do all of our in-person kids like alphabetically, and we'll use the tables that are in there and set up some other tables as well. And then kind of the same plan for when we get to our testing days, K-Prep days starting, we're going to start with virtual May the 11th and in-person kids starting May the 13th. So if you look at that and have questions, or you see something that won't work, then just let me know about that. A couple of you mentioned Chromebooks for next year, and I do think, my thoughts are we'll continue with the same kind of things that we've been doing this year, where we allow kids to bring one if they would like to. I think some of our kids like that, but then we'll also have Chromebooks available here. We may look at trying to move away from like a bunch of Chromebooks in the carts and more towards smaller sets in classrooms, and we'll talk about some of that later on. But one thing we do need to think about as we close out this year is we need to get our Chromebooks back and get them kind of secured so that we have some, because it's going to take a few days or weeks of chasing Chromebooks, I think, to try to get the majority of ours back. So as we think about those last few days of school especially, we may just say, like that last week of school, if you can think of things that maybe don't need Chromebooks, because we may try to start those last few days collecting Chromebooks. I just don't think we can do all that the last day of school and ever have any chance of getting most of them back.
Do you have any suggestions?
About what to do? No. That's why I'm saying this now, so that we can think about it for a while. I'll be glad to help think about that. So.
And by the last week, you mean like the 26th, 7th, 8th, like that week?
Yeah, like those last 3 or 4 days is what I'm
Okay.
kind of thinking. We are planning on an 8th grade awards. We may have to limit numbers based on, we'll just see what the situation is at the time. It could be a lot better, or hopefully not, it could be worse by the time we get to that. So I don't think we can pack a gym full of people, but we can do something with limited attendance and then maybe stream it for anybody else who is interested. That could be one thing, that would be, the 6th and 7th graders want to watch 8th grade awards on the last day. We'll stream it to where that they can. And then we will try to do some grade level awards on that last day as well. Not for parents, but kind of like we've done in the past. So I think we can still do some of those things those last couple of days. We are still planning on a cookout of some sort that last week at some point, and we're talking about some options for field day and different things like that. Ms. Kayla and Ms. Raylan are working on some of those things. Any other concerns, questions, snide remarks before we jump into testing? All right, very good. Then take it away, Ms. Donna.
All right, okay. Can you hear me all the way back there in the back? Okay. All right, well, I'm going to make this as painless as possible, but there are some things that we need to go through for we actually are going to test this year. If you remember, we did not last year. So it's been 2 years since we've had state testing. But there are a few changes going on this year, and I wanted to make you aware of the changes first. And then we're going to talk about administration code, and then we're going to call it an afternoon today. But did everyone receive the folder that I shared this morning, Mr. West?
Yes, I think I emailed it.
Okay, so you have a folder that's for 2020-21 state testing. And in that folder, you have the full administration code document and you have the full inclusion document. Because this afternoon, we're just going to summarize and hit some high points of that. We're not going to go through that word for word, but you are expected to have access to both of those, okay? Also, before I get started into the slides, this year with testing, I don't know if you've heard or not, but I think it came out yesterday or the day before, Kentucky received their waiver from the U.S. Department of Education where testing will not be rolled out into accountability this year. So what we will do, we're going to have a shortened test this spring. When it rolls out, either in the summer or in the early fall, all you'll get are the percentages in each content area of performance levels. Now each student will still get their individual testing report, but we're not going to get a proficiency score, a gap score, and I can't even remember what all else, but all those indicators, we will not have that. So don't expect that. That's what the waiver's for, okay? But a few changes along the way, and some things have stayed the same. And some of you may have that pulled up on your Chromebook so you can see it. But who takes the K-Prep? And as Mr. West said, I think it's probably, 3 weeks away that some schools in the district are going to get started. I think the intermediate's going to start May 10th. So it's coming up on us rather quickly. Now, just like always, students in grades 3 through 8, 10 and 11, including those with disabilities, are expected to take K-Prep. Foreign exchange students, students who are retained, students that move in, if they have a minor medical emergency, our first year EL students are supposed to attempt the test, but then our second year EL students and later participate in all content areas. Not required to test are your alternate K-Prep, and Michael's already been working on that. They have had to complete 2 windows in the spring semester. So he's wrapping up window 1 and he's getting ready to start on window 2. So those students do not take your K-Prep. Let's see what else there. Students with approved medical non-participation requests and students expelled without services. On that slide, nothing has changed about that. That's the way it's always been. It's the next slide that gets a little different. So, all students who are in person or face-to-face in some manner, unless medically unable, should be tested. So, we have received guidance document after guidance document since the COVID pandemic has hit. So there is a guidance document out there that guides us through spring testing as well. And that's what they're referring to on this slide. All testing environments where a test will be administered should follow the guidance. So that's talking about all of the COVID safety, you know, having your 6 feet distance, having masks on. We still have to continue to follow those things. We're going to use the chart to figure out who takes the test. Now this part is different, okay? So they're using a chart with 4 different students. So student A is a student that's been coming to school every day face to face. Of course, we're expected to test them, okay? Student B, maybe they have not been in school, but they agreed that they will meet us. They still don't want to come into the school, but they'll meet us somewhere. We can test them. We can send a test administrator out to the public library or to someone's home and administer that test. I'm not sure let me back up. I'm not sure we would go to the homes. In any other year we would, but not during the pandemic year. Student C is a homebound. They're receiving services. They have a homebound teacher. I'm not even so sure how we've been doing homebound students. Has the teacher been going to their...
I don't think we've had any.
Okay, so they're either virtual or here. Okay, so in the past, homebound students, we would take that to their home and administer the test. The key is you cannot administer the K-Prep unless you're a trained, certified teacher. We can't just send anybody out or they can't take it on their own. So student D, who's home and is virtual, and we have reached out and said, you need to come in and take the K-Prep test, and they still tell us, nope, we're not coming in, and we're not going to meet you anywhere, then they will not have to take the test. Now, we haven't stated it that way. We're calling, I think maybe the intermediates down to less than 5 students that are going to come in and take the test. So we're communicating that they're expected to come in and test. But just between us, they're not going to hold it against us. If they're coded correctly in Infinite Campus, then their non-participation will be approved. Okay, now this...
Is that the less than 5 that are going to take it or aren't?
Aren't.
Okay.
Yeah. But now we don't know who's going to show up when the time
We
comes.
say,
Right, just like all of our other assessments, the ACT, the end of program at the high school, all of those assessments we've called, we've scheduled, and then the day of the test administration, we have several not show up. So that's probably going to be the case for all of our K-Prep testing. This year, as different from our 2019 spring testing semester, we field tested the online test, and that's about as far as we got in 2019. But this year, all testing from 3rd grade up is online. It's going to be in the Test Nav system, okay? So again, reading will be grades 3 through 8 and grade 10, math 3 through 8 and grade 10, science 4, 7, and 11, on-demand writing 5, 8, and 11. Now, social studies is a field test this year, okay? So we will take the social studies field test. Not all districts are taking it. They sent it out and they just asked, would you like to participate in this test, yes or no? And I said, yes, we want to see it. We want to see what it's like. It will be the last test that the student takes, not the last test that we're going to administer. If we get a virtual student that comes in and we only have them for a couple days, we're going to give them every test, okay? But that social studies field test will be the last thing administered. And there won't be any editing and mechanics this year, okay? All right, in your packet, I'll go over this very quickly. The tests are shortened this year, and you each have a testing schedule. That was the first page of the packet. Okay, so we're going to start with grade 6, just to make sure we're all on the same page here. Grade 6 reading, they'll have 4 passages, 18 multiple choice, 1 short answer, Time limit is 60 minutes. Math will have a part A and a part B. The no C doesn't mean you're not going to have a part C. That means there's no calculator on part B. Okay? There will be on part A, 13 multiple choice, no short answer. But on part B math, 5 multiple choice, 1 short answer, with a total time for both parts is 60 minutes. Okay? Grade 7 is very similar. I'm not going to go over all of reading and math, but grade 7, we add science. So science, you're going to have 2 clusters, 11 to 12 multiple choice. You're going to have 2 to 3 multiple select, 2 extended response with a total time of 60 minutes. 8th grade, very similar. We add on-demand writing. You will have 1 passage-based prompt in 8th grade. Writing will be 90 minutes. And they did not put the social studies field test, but I have more information on that in just a second. Okay? Any questions on that so far? Okay, scheduling is a little bit different as well. And some of this you may already know, but it's in testing regulation through the state of Kentucky that all testing occurs in the last 14 days of a school's calendar. Okay? Now, prior to this year, it went a little farther. It said that you had to test in 5 consecutive days within the last 14. But they have waived that this year. We do not have to get everything done in 5 consecutive days. We have all of the last 14 days to complete our testing. Okay? And with that being said, also, this is very important for our special ed teachers. Prior to this year, now, and this is a 1-year only deal, so next year we'll go back to normal, I feel sure. But remember, when we test a content area, everyone that takes that test had to complete it within that day. If we're testing reading, everybody had to finish the reading test by the time they go home in the afternoon. That's not the case this year. We can have multiple administrations in the content area. So your accommodated testing, we don't have to rush to get everyone finished in that day. We can have multiple days to complete that, which that's a relief. Okay, the one thing that we can't change, we have to test in order, just like they tell us we have to. Reading is first, then math, science, on-demand writing, and then the social studies field test. We have to follow the administration code guidelines. And remember, the administration code regulation covers us for all our assessments. Now here at the middle school, we give the alternate K-Prep, we give K-Prep. But at the high school, we're testing practically all year long. So this administration code covers us for all state testing. We still have to follow all the testing policies, and then the last bullet there is just talking about giving the students breaks. And just remember, when you give them a break, they have to be monitored at all times. Okay, extended time is still allowed for those with IEPs, 504s, or program service plans. So we have to make arrangements for that, and we have to account for that, because extended time for that student has to immediately follow that administration of the test. Okay? So those that work on the testing schedule, make sure they take care of that. All right, online timing. Again, on your schedule, we went over the times for all of that, like reading 60 minutes, math, science 60 minutes, writing is 90 minutes. But I want you to pay attention to the statement from KDE. TestNav will not shut off on students once time is up. KDE guidance has been that if students are working diligently, allow them to work beyond the stated time limits. So don't shut them down at 60 minutes if they've been working. They can work beyond that. But that's a judgment call you're going to have to make. The teachers that are in the room monitoring the test, you know if they're working diligently, or you know if they've just been sitting there doing nothing. If they've been sitting there doing nothing, by all means, cut them off. But if they've been working and trying, let them finish the test. Okay? So that's okay. But that's on you. That's your judgment call. I'm not really going to go over all the non-participation forms because that's where Miss Tammy and I work together on that. One thing I will say is just, as always, during the testing window, you're going to have kids that have broken arms, broken glasses, fingers. When they come in with all sorts of little emergencies, there's a form, there's a procedure for every part of that, and we'll take care of that. Okay. There will be a survey that they take first. And again, we talked about this 2 years ago, if you remember. It's the School Climate and Safety Survey. So this will be the first thing that they take. They will take 20 minutes for them to take the survey. And it's all about school climate, school safety, and opportunities to learn. Okay? And if you remember too, if you were here with us, sometimes we have them look at the specific questions about what that is. Again, it's just information gathering. Survey is first, then they'll start in with their reading. Social Studies field test. It's a separate online test. It's going to be for 5, 8, and 11. Remember, they had an alternate plan that we were going to test off grade level last fall, which didn't happen. So they're putting it back in the appropriate grade levels this time. It'll be a 60-minute test with 8 different forms. And social studies will have the multiple select questions just like science. So it'll have multiple choice, multiple select, short answer, and extended response. Okay, the test is in Pearson Access Next. It's the TestNav 8 online system. So have most of you had a chance to take a look at the practice test? Have we looked at that? Okay, good. Now, if you have not had the opportunity to take a look at that practice test, let Miss Tammy or Mr. West know. They will give you the link to look at that because there's a brief tutorial at the very beginning of the practice test that shows all the online tools that our students are able to use when they take it. Okay? So some of the students have already, or maybe all of them, have already had that chance to refresh their memory what that looks like. But if you haven't, get on here and take a look at that prior to the test. Now, before I move on, while I'm talking about taking an online test, last week when I did the training, a teacher asked them, what happens if they get kicked out of the system while we're taking the test? There is a dashboard that we can watch. We can watch how long it's taking them to test. We can tell when they have submitted their test and they've stopped, or if they've been kicked out, and we have the ability to restart that test. Now, if it begins to be a huge technical issue, which I don't anticipate that it will be, we have Chad and Kevin will be available. We have numbers we can call. So we'll just call them and get it fixed is all we can do. But it really ran smoothly the last time we did that. And we've been doing large group testing at the high school in the past couple of months, and everything's operated well. Okay, right now this slide is talking about the test sessions. Now I'm finishing up the intermediate schools test sessions. It takes a lot of front loading for online testing to occur. So we're having to put the students in the test, which is what I'm doing right now, and I'm getting ready to start on the middle school. So I will start on them probably Monday, and I'll get them in the appropriate grade level tests, and then what will happen then is then they get a test ticket. So Miss Tammy will have all the test tickets. She will give those to you prior to testing to make sure that all of our students have a ticket. If they don't, if they're new to our school, we can add them in the system. Or if we've had some move away, we'll take care of that too. And then when it's the day of testing, you'll have a seal code that we'll put in for that content area. Students will log in with their test ticket, and then they'll take off. that was just about the same information. Again, it has to be given in the right order. For schools with a one-to-one, we'll work with technology, which we know that it's going to be okay. Okay, reading, very quickly, just a quick review of this. Reading will have one form of the test, so all students will have the same test. Now, they may be mixed up. They may read them in different orders, but they'll read all the same passages, 60 minutes, multiple choice, short answer, and extended response. Math, one form of the test as well. They'll all answer the same problems, but they may be mixed up, scattered about. Multiple choice, short answer, and extended response. Part A is calculator, Part B, no calculator, except for high school, and they had to switch that. Now let's talk about calculators for just a second. There is an online calculator that I'll show you in just a moment that we really had great discussions about those maybe last spring a little, but 2 years ago especially. But if it's in their IEP that they can have a handheld calculator, they can have a handheld calculator, okay? But it has to say handheld, and we've dealt with that. I feel sure they're all okay. If it's where it doesn't say that they can have a handheld, but they can have a calculator on the no calculator section, we can turn that on where they can have that. So review your IEPs, work with Ms. Tammy to make sure that we have all of those accommodations taken care of for calculators. Otherwise, well, this is talking about formulas and conversions are embedded into the test. And then here's your calculator. Grades 6 through 8 will have the scientific calculator. It will be available to them on Part A, where they can have it, and it will not be available on Part B. We can use our test tickets as scrap paper with every test, so they'll have scrap paper and pencil to be able to take that test.
Is the calculator going to pop up, or does they push the button to bring it down?
I can't remember exactly. Has anyone practiced the math test lately to know if it just pops up or if they just have to click a button? Take a look at the practice test in math or have someone check that. I think it's a no-brainer kind of thing that it's there for them, that they can easily see that. Okay, let's move on to science. 4 forms of the test. So there are different forms of the science test. And again, an online calculator is available when they need it in the area of science. And then they also have the multiple select. Writing on demand, there's 1 form, 1 passage-based prompt, 90-minute assessment. Dictionary and thesaurus will be online. And there's a notepad tool, and they can use scratch paper. Seal codes for each one. You don't have to worry about that, and you don't have to worry about that. Okay, so let's go to your packet very quickly. And I'm just going to highlight some of these things, and this is coming directly from the test, the K-Prep manual. So I sent out a link today to our backs and principles to a new online K-Prep toolbox. So in that toolbox, you'll find your teacher manual, you'll find the testing schedule, I think. Also on there is a very nice pamphlet over testing accommodations. It's very clear what you can do as far as accommodations and what you can't. We're going to touch those just briefly this afternoon, but I really advise you to go take a look at those. But going into more of your administration code for testing, reporting student cheating, we never have really a problem with that, but I wanted to highlight and bring emphasis to monitoring. We do a great job of monitoring the test, but that's still expected even in an online environment. But what is expected with that It's expected that our test administrators who are giving the test move about the room while students are working, making sure they're in the appropriate place on the test, using appropriate resources, only using what's approved. Make sure students are not talking to other students or looking at another student's work, which we don't normally have that, but that students are not in any way conducting themselves in a manner that would be considered inappropriate during a testing session. So the bottom line, pretty much summary of the administration code is that at all state testing, it has to be the product of that student. We in no way can lead them to any answers or help them with the test. As before, we can say, keep going, do good work, do the best you can. And when you're monitoring a test, that's all you can say. Now, if they have trouble being in the right spot, we can certainly help ensure that they're in the right area, but in no way can we lead them to any answers. And don't put yourself in that situation, okay? On the back side of that page, basically what we've already talked about was the online calculator accommodation. It has to be in that IEP or 504 before they can appropriately have that. Approved and unapproved testing resources. Of course, they can have their test tickets, which serve as scrap paper. Here it's talking about dictionary, thesauri, pen and pencil, or a handheld calculator. They may not have a certain graphic organizer or acronym sheets. They may not have any electronic devices. You do a good job about getting those collected prior to taking that test. I'm going to quickly go to the next page to accommodations, which goes to the back. Quickly review that. So it says at the top, which the page that I'm looking at the top is page 17, that accommodations shall not inappropriately impact the content being measured. In all components of the spring 2021 K-Prep and the survey, a student shall be the sole creator, author, decision maker, and owner of his or her own work. The proper accommodations have to be, again, in the IEP, must be routinely used throughout the school year. And then you can see the list of accommodations at the bottom. The most common that we have, and tell me if it's different, but reader, scribe, handheld calculator, extended time, and paraphrasing is basically what we have here. At the top of page 19, the reader, and I'm not going to read every part of this, but the role of the reader during state assessment is to read the directions, the prompts, the situation, passages, and stories as provided, not use anything additional to that. Reread the directions, prompts, situations, or passages or stories if specifically requested by the student. So if the student asks for you to read a certain part of that over again, by all means do that. Not point out any parts of the task, question, or part skipped by the student. If they, as a reader, and that's the only accommodation they have, then you can't point that out to them. You can read individual words or abbreviations that are mispronounced by text, screen readers, or specifically requested by the student. Now the scribe will type. In the past, we have written for our students, but we will type for them this time. But remember, it's exactly as the student dictates, okay? Word for word what they say. So type what the student dictates word for word. Format, capitalize, punctuate the student's writing as directed by the student. Now you do that how you've done all year long. Okay? And then not alter, edit, or revise the student's own ideas, revisions, or edits. If they read the finished product and they're okay with it, we have to be okay with it. But if they say, no, I would like this changed, or that changed, or this corrected, then make the corrections for the student. On page 20, extended time. Remember, extended time is time and a half or double time, and it has to follow the immediate administration of the test. And paraphrasing is for directions only. Once you've read the directions, you paraphrase that for the students that have that as an accommodation, then the time of the test may begin, and you don't paraphrase anything else. But paraphrasing means breaking directions into parts or segments, using similar words or phrases in directions, and repeating or rephrasing directions. And then that's all that I'm going to go over there. The last page is a summary of the administration code. I kind of made it highlight, so I'm just going to briefly go over this. The administration code was created in like 2014, and when we compare it to online testing, it's really outdated. But that's the only guidance that we have right now. But just making sure all assessment work shall be done entirely by the student. We have to keep test tickets secure, okay? So whenever we have those, that's considered secure testing material. We don't need to talk about test content. I feel sure the students don't talk about the test content. I don't know why they worry about it. I don't think they do, but we can, okay? You can scan what they're doing. Let's not read everything word for word. We have to destroy all the scratch paper. We have to collect that and get rid of it. Keep an eye out, anytime we have students write, we have to be on guard for alert papers. If they're writing about something that you think that they might be in danger or in a bad situation, let Miss Tammy know that, and then there's proper procedures we could follow there. Classroom materials, depending on where you're testing.
Mainly would be in the gym unless it's a conduit.
Okay. So in the gym, we don't have to worry about content posters and things of that nature. There's nothing there. But if you're testing an accommodated student, make sure all content information's off the walls. That's still into play. Administration practices, again, only words of encouragement may be used during testing. Follow all proper accommodations. If students are being disruptive in a testing environment, you let one of your administrators know, and we can remove them from that environment so they're not disruptive to other students. Make sure restroom breaks are monitored, and students may not move around the room when they're taking the test. Just like always, if you keep your good faith effort checklist, you may continue to do that. Nothing's changed in that manner, okay? So that was a very quick summary of administrative code, the inclusion document, and changes to testing. That's why I've provided it to you in a folder that you can refer back to it. So do you have any questions?
I know I mentioned this to a couple of different groups last week. I know testing is going to look different this year. It's not, because we can't do everybody, we're not going to test everybody at once. So, as much as possible, and I know there's 24 days of school left, and I know you have to be creative, and I know, unfortunately we can't do some of the whole school things the way we always have. So as much as possible, when we're not testing, we'll just continue on with plan. I know you're not going to probably dive into that next chapter, and the pace is going to be different, everybody knows that. But for everyone's sanity, and, because that's what we're supposed to do, we'll just continue on as much as we can when you're not testing. We're not able to shut down the world for testing. We cannot, there's no way that we can keep everybody else who's not testing from being upstairs, like we had in the past, because we just have to go on with life. We don't want it to be a overwhelming thing for our kids. We want them to know, but we also want them to know, hey, we're going to do some fun things as much as we can too. So, hang in there with us during testing. It's not, it's going to be 2 hours or 4.5 hours I guess, no. 3.5 hours at the most, I guess, so, you know, it's not gonna be K-Prep takes over the world. It's just gonna be one of those things we need to do and do our best at. Any other questions, comments, thoughts?
You shared 6. I have 6 emails that say 2021 testing training.
Okay, I kept
Are
trying to
they
share.
different?
No, I kept trying to share that folder, and it kept telling me, cannot share, cannot share, cannot share.
Oh, okay.
So I kept trying, and apparently it could share it.
So as long as we've got one.
If you got 6 within about 5 minutes, that was operator error on my part. So
Okay.
I thought nobody had it, but you all had it 6 times. You're welcome. Thorough.
And I do have to say that everyone does a super outstanding job when it comes to testing. Everybody's on their toes, we all do the best we can. That's all we can do. Just let the kids do the very best they can. It is what it is, and we'll wrap up this year. Just keep in mind, like you said, after testing, remember, there's a lot maybe that the students didn't get this year. So we still have some gaps to fill or extra practice to put in place so that that next level, that they'll be ready for the content when they get there. So just however you can make it as engaging, fun, relevant as you can at this time of year. We know it gets tough. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Ms. Donna. Everybody have a great day. Thank you very much. We'll do it again next week, 24 and counting. If you didn't sign, make sure you sign both pages before you sign one page and then 2 signature sheets and 1 individual.
While you driving, man.
That's why I got my mama's car. It's in the shop again. Well, I heard they get it done during spring break. This is the guy, so he's good. Well, better, I mean, I think this is my 4th year. And I always think somebody just leave her out there. Drop the man. So then it wasn't me. Wow. It wasn't that long. But there was a state trooper behind me. And I'm going to about 6. You've been through that.
That it listed your question, and they had something about, like a solid colored circle. So that if they left the one, they could easily use their actual receipt. Oh, number 2, now I think they could still submit it if they wanted to. That was everything I thought, but I think we should say.
You got you started to. That's pretty good. I feel swamper yet. I had water on the hook. And you got
Now, depending on the size of your class, if you want to take them upstairs to your room, it's not, I mean, you don't have that small class now, you got big class. So when they're not testing, I figure we've also got some, and we didn't use these last week, we've got some pieces of foam that cover up those doors, they're like rigid foam, that we can put on both sides of the door. Excuse me, that's hiccups. So we can put that there. It's not perfect, but it does block a little bit of sound. But as long as they're not like hooting and hollering,
Who's gonna do it, Diane?
if it's loud, I can like text you. So I don't think the noise that we would get from you all from here into there is going to be anything comparable to the
cafeteria noise that we've had in the testing.
Anyway, the cafeteria noise and then us working like.
Yeah. I think it I really think it would get better.
I just wanted to check for
Yeah.
before.
I think we can go on, Joe, we'll continue on, and if we see it's a problem, we'll look at other options. I don't see it being a problem, so.
I'll make it.
Hey, did we turn that on?
No, probably not. But I mean, I will now.
I thought that you set it up.
I did turn it on.